Hi.
Hello, Ione.
Hey,
Hi.
Ben.
What a fabulous Christmas season.
Yeah.
Are you feeling spirited?
Yeah, I find it cozy. I like it.
Yeah, it's good.
You have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, well, I didn't grow up with any Christmas. It was just something to be like, I was like haunted by Goyim about what Christmas meant. As a Jewish child, I was in Australia. I'd go on holiday and at Christmas time in the summer and just all these blonde-haired, freckly Aussie surfer kids would ask me what I got for Christmas, and I'd sort of tell them what I'd got for Hanukkah as my Christmas presents, but they were never as good, and they'd look at me with just this like pity, this sense of disadvantage. But they did. My favorite thing that I learned from those wonderfully sun-kissed goyim was when the older kid said to me, "Do you lick a dick a day?"
What's that?
And I was like, and you know when you're like trying to act cool because you don't know, and I was like, I'm trying to think, should I say yes or no? And they were like, do you lick a dick a day? And I was like,
that sounds dirty.
No. Yeah, it's do you lick a dick a day?
Oh, I was right.
Yeah.
Before.
So anyway, that's my Christmas wish. My Christmas wish to everyone this holiday season is that they all either lick a dick a day or don't lick a dick a day, depending on their...
It sounds like it's good for you, like an
It does.
ad.
It's like a vitamin. It's like a multi, a daily all-in-one. Lick a dick a day.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway.
Aw.
Should we all be so lucky?
We should all be so lucky to lick a dick a day.
It's adorable bullying.
Yeah, it is.
All right, I'm excited today. So I'm with my good friends, Fabienne, Toback, and Karis, Jagger, and they have an incredible show on Netflix called High on the Hog.
Great show.
Which is incredible. And so we're going to just, chit-chat about that and other things. But
2 seasons deep.
yes. Yes.
Love this show.
It's so incredible, the show. And I was really, the first episode in the first season, like, I don't know, it's hard to learn about history, Black history in America in the weirdest way, like you learn in school in such a funny way that's so dry and, I don't know, hard to imagine and get a sort of visceral experience whatsoever. So I feel like they should definitely show a lot of the episodes in school for sure. And I don't know, I just felt like I could understand a little more possibly of like people coming from Africa and stuff like that. So anyway,
wait, let's start with what it is, because it's like it's through food, which is a lens.
Exactly. But it's more than that, but it's food too.
Do you want the
Please give us
the elevator pitch?
Yes.
It's a history of African Americans as told through the lens of food. So we look at the role that food has had, its influence on the American kitchen and American culture.
Have you said that before? Is that why you're laughing?
We're laughing because we did a million pitches where we were like practicing those words.
And what came first? Was it the desire to create a show about Black history, or was it the desire to make a food show, or was it both?
Well, to be fair, the show is really based on a book. And so we optioned a book by the same name that is like a phenomenal book that a friend of ours sent to Fabienne and said, "This will change your life." And then she gave it to me, and we were like, you read it and you just cry because it's so emotional and so much history that like neither of us knew, both having spent a lot of time learning about history and food. And so we were shocked that we didn't know it and felt that it was the perfect opportunity and to turn it into a documentary series.
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't believe that no one had already optioned the book and was doing it. So we were just like, because
I think, how long had the book been out?
The
5,
book had
6, 7 years?
The book had been, I think it was published in 2011.
Yeah.
So like 8 or 9 years, something like that. So we couldn't believe that it hadn't happened yet. And really just, we were incredibly moved by the information and the history. But it really is not, I wouldn't say it's a Debbie Downer, because I think it's when people go like, oh, Black history, we've heard that already.
No, not at all.
But as told through the lens of food, it really shows the sort of like the strength and resilience and kind of ingenuity and creativity that Black people have had in this country despite the difficult history. And it was very inspirational. And it's something that we had never seen before. So we were like, if we're inspired and moved into this degree, how much, and we're already foodies and we're already into history. How much more would that translate to the public? And
So wait, I'm curious about the process. Did you read it first, or who read it first?
Fabi read it.
I read it first.
And had you decided by the end of it, you were like, "This is something me and Karis
Oh my
should do
God.
together"?
I was like, I was so like, the book had to get to Karis like right away. I think you had downloaded it because
Yeah.
I think I had a hard copy.
Yeah.
And she downloaded it, and I think I was like, oh, I have to do this. And I didn't know how Karis felt about it because we were kind of reading it simultaneously. And I was just like, I hope she really wants to do it, but if she doesn't, like, I still have to do this. And so I was so relieved when she was like, we need to do this. And I was like, oh.
And you already were doing food things before. You were doing food stuff on Instagram,
Eating?
right? That was
No.
before. You're already eating.
No,
We did the
Yes,
David Netto, the New York Times little videos.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, was
that's-
that wasn't a Hey Sister production? though, was it?
No.
Yeah.
But that was, so
Yeah.
you had already been kind of working together and, obviously friends and mothers together. But it felt so, like when projects feel right, it does have this like, oh yeah, of course. That, like, it just feels like that was supposed to happen. Like,
Yeah.
it feels so natural.
It did.
But then we spent like 6 months like digging into the book and doing more research, and then we started preparing like how we were going to pitch it.
Yeah.
And are
But
you
Karis had the genius idea because, as you know, in Hollywood, there's a lot of hurry up and wait. So we had optioned the book, and between optioning the book and selling the project to Netflix, there was just like this a lot of nothingness. So Karis suggested that we start the food Instagram blog called Hey Sista. That's HEY_SISTAH.
Beautifully said.
Beautiful lean in too. I was like, whatever's about to come here is important.
And it was so great because it gave us such an opportunity to connect with people.
Yeah, that was the best thing about it, was that was how we connected with like chefs and writers, and because it was sort of the beginning of all that. And it was just like, if you had your own presence, then it's not less creepy.
So
Just like DMing people
Totally.
as
Right.
you know what I mean?
Totally.
That's right.
Hi.
So as you begun to develop the project and tried to figure out what the thread would be, who the host would be, how you divide up the stories, what was the concept you sort of landed on at the end?
I think like our original thing was that it would be 8 episodes, but then who you pitch to really determines like what they were doing. So I think like when we first pitched to Netflix, they were doing mostly 8-episode series, but by the time they greenlit it, they'd moved into 4 episodes. So then it broke down over 2 seasons.
Gotcha.
And it's so, the production value and it's so high level. Like, how did you control that? Because things can go so bad. Like, people can make something, whatever, like docu-series can be so good or so bad. Like, yeah, how did you keep it so classy or whatever?
Well, one, we partnered with Roger Ross Williams and his production company called One Story Up. And, Roger has, won an Academy Award for his short film and has been nominated as well. And we had a meeting with him and just really watched his movie. It's a story about a young autistic boy finding his voice through Disney animation. And he took this kind of sort of difficult topic and made it really...
It's really beautiful.
It's really beautiful. And like the parts like of him and his first love, like things that could be kind of cringy if it's like over-saccharinated or overly sympathetic. He really had a very nice emotional balance to it where it wasn't like, you weren't kind of like, ugh. And we felt like once we met with him, we were like, he's perfect. Actually, once we watched the movie, we were like, he would be perfect to take this topic and not make it like overly like overwrought, emotionally overwrought, where it was like, ugh, I don't want to watch
Also,
that.
the DP, Jerry Henry, is amazing.
Jerry Henry is
really,
amazing.
really good.
Yeah,
Like,
the
it's
way
so
it's
good looking.
shot.
stuff in
Yeah.
Africa. I don't remember if you say those like the kids like dancing in Africa. We'd gone out to this, it's called Ganvier, and it's like a whole area where they live on like houses above the water, but everyone gets places by water. And there wasn't enough room for Fabienne and I to go on the boat to the church, and we were like furious.
Yeah.
We were like
So-
we wanted to see it all. But when they came back with the footage, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's-
mean, I'm getting chills right now thinking
That's-
about it.
It
That's
was really
right.
crazy. And it was like pouring with rain. And we were sitting in this little weird kind of
Cafe,
Yeah.
the best French fries were so delicious.
Yeah, but it
French
was
fries in
amazing.
the rain is
yeah,
very
Ben,
good.
Yeah.
How did
Ben
you-
was really interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bennett.
you feel like you're with the host, Stephen Satterfield, who I wanted to
Sounds like you're reading that.
I am Satterfield. But you,
Rolled off the tongue.
do feel like whether you're in someone's like kitchen in their apartment in uptown in New York or whatever, or like whatever outdoors, like you kind of just feel like you're with them. Like it's weird the way it's shot. It's so beautiful, but you also feel like you're there with them. I don't
Also,
know
how
why.
good the food looks
Yeah.
constantly
Yeah.
is like part of it too. That I think the sensuality of the show
Yeah.
is like a huge part of
Yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
the weather, the spaces, the
that was
tastes.
really important to us because we
Yeah.
were just like, the food has to look gorgeous, because we're not really showing food being made. So in the sort of preparation thing, you just want it to be so unctuous and delicious that draws you in.
Yeah. And what better way to change the hearts and minds of people through their stomach?
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And I think people are drawn to the series because they're like, ooh, it's going to be good food. And then it's like, oh, wait, I've learned something new. So you kind of get them on two different levels.
How did you, as you were developing it, there's obviously, it is a form of activism in a sense, the
Oh,
show.
yeah, for sure. That was intentional.
But how did you know how much of that the audience would be able to handle versus the more visceral? Like I always think educating an audience and entertaining them is like such a fine balance, and you strike it so well.
I think a lot of that came in the story. So, like you're crafting each episode, and you sort of can see, if you break it down into beats, like what is enough and what is too much.
Yeah.
And then I think also, there were really great editors as well. And so that's the second piece, is like you start to pull it all together, and you really can feel like when, okay, we need more joy in here. And then, like we need another beat in here to make it balanced.
Yeah, it definitely, like you said, it's so powerful, but it's never a downer, or it's never, like I learned, it's funny because I like the Black Panther part was so great because it's like the press.
That's in season 2.
And the press we got about Black Panthers was only violent, and all this stuff. But you forget of all the programs that they had, all the good food programs.
And that is still going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is still
So
going.
it's like you
Totally.
learn all this stuff that I like, oh yeah, I remember that. But it's just so great to be reminded of, just like intelligence and good movements and stuff that you kind of, and again, through food, and it's not in a like heavy-handed way, but you walk away like, wow, that's so great. That's so powerful.
Yeah, I think that we really wanted to deal, because it's sort of, we wanted definitely the activist part of it to be the most dominant part of the series. But I think also when you look at, I lost my train of thought there.
That's okay.
All right.
I think
But,
it was
yeah.
also like, for us, we were so moved by all the untold stories.
Yes.
So it was like, the Georgia Gilmore, and people not really understanding that the bus boycott was funded by these women who were selling
Sandwiches
baked goods.
and baked goods.
And
That's amazing.
It's like when we learned that, you're like, what? Like, why have I learned about this and I've never learned this before?
Yeah.
So it's like, even within history that we already think we know, there's still so many stories that need to be told.
And also reframing of, one of the things I found really moving was the conversation about plantations.
Yeah.
And from the older gentleman who'd grown up on the plantation saying like, this is ours. We should be proud of this, even though we don't own it and no one's ever going to give it back to us. It's ours and it's our history. And the host saying, oh, the word plantation even spooks me out.
Yeah.
That was a fascinating conversation.
Well, I think we also, we kind of struggled with that as well, but it's someone's opinion, and it's a different perspective of how to look at things. And I think, like you said, like plantation is just like, oh, this dirty word. But hear a Black man who kind of comes out of that world to have a different perspective on it. I think that's kind of part of the goal of the series, is to kind of illuminate different perspectives and I remember what I was going to say before now. It's like we really wanted to also deal with facts, so there's no, we were able to strike that balance of activism, but we're dealing with like, these are documents like in episode series, the first season 1, the whole thing with the mac and cheese. These are just facts. Like, mac and cheese is what it is. Thomas Jefferson is who he is. James Hemings is, it's like, these are just the simple facts, and keeping it a factual based. There's little room for sort of this non-interpretation.
Yes.
So.
And right now, with all the cuckoos out there, like, having facts feels so healthy. Yeah. And that's interesting. I never thought about, if you erase something because it was bad, you are erasing. It's like, how do you keep someone's whole life? That's really an interesting idea just to think about.
Yeah. Well, it's a huge conversation in America and the world right now about how do we position ourselves in relationship to our history. I mean, every country has to deal with this. It's like, there's obviously these immense traumas, and there's different opinions on the most healthy way to continue to process that. And it is important to honor.
Through food.
Through food.
But the healing that was going on at some of those tables, by eating, I mean.
And the host, I mean.
Yeah.
The host,
Stephen is amazing.
So great.
But you were saying earlier something about like, creating, Stephen is such a great host because he really does. He's very attentive and he's a very empathetic listener, and creating that safe space for, the subjects to kind of be themselves, where they can let their guard down and show some sort of vulnerability. I think in season 1 and episode 4, when he's with a Jarrell guy, and she talks about like why she bakes. I mean, it's like, I get teared up just thinking about that scene still, where she's just like,
I know there was emotional stuff that we didn't include because it was just too much.
Yeah.
Too much emotion.
Too much. I love when Stephen was on the horse, personally. There was a lot of that we can include as well. Oh, Bessie.
Were there specific things that, like, from an educational perspective, that like kind of blew each of your minds? Like, because you must have learned an immense amount.
Oh my gosh, everything from like the downbeat. I mean, we learned so much.
I mean, I really didn't know anything about Benin before we went there.
Nothing.
Like, it didn't really factor into a place that slaves had come from. So that was like right from the get. Like,
page 1
book opens like in Damtopka Market, which I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And we were. So many people haven't even heard of Benin.
Yeah. And it's weird. It shouldn't be exciting, but there's something exciting about learning about it for some reason. Like the first episode, I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like it just was so exciting, might be the wrong word.
It's the tone.
But
I think it's the tone. The
yeah.
tone makes it a joy to learn.
Yeah.
As opposed to like sometimes with education, you feel like education itself can be punishment. It's like, you need to catch up on what this is like. Oh my gosh, this amazing rich history that you've missed out on. I mean, take a dive into it.
Yeah,
it's
beyond
so
heavy and, all of that is there, of course. But it's sort of, there's something about the way, you guys, I don't know.
It was amazing. I mean, obviously, Fabi and I were like, we're definitely going to Africa. There's no way.
Actually, when we put the pitch together, it's like, we were like, I think we need to go to Africa because you can go a lot of different ways.
No one on the crew spoke French apart from us, so we were selling ourselves as being like multifaceted.
Exactly.
Interpreters.
Exactly.
Yeah. Double dip into that budget.
But it was actually very helpful.
Getting to that market was
ice.
Insane. Like you don't even understand how big it is. It's something crazy like 20 football fields or something, and it's just like every little pocket you go into,
and it's super organized.
It's selling the same thing.
Right.
I like, we never have that really in America. The farmers market where it's just like the whole block is okra, or the whole block is. It was like so fascinating.
And so what
so
differentiates the different stalls?
It's super. It's
quality?
It's like
quality in your peeps, I guess.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
the one where
Loyalty.
you go to the same one
the same person. Yeah. Like there's like the scene where they're the yams. There's like 40 yam merchants in all that one area.
Bizarre.
But then, the next block is like pineapples. And then the next one is clothing, and the next, but it's really cool. And then there's a whole area where there's cooked foods, so it's
I'm
really
curious when did the show get greenlit?
Season 1 got greenlit in, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
2018.
2018.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And I knew it was already in motion. Did you feel that everything happened in 2020 with BLM and people being open to hearing Black stories? How did that affect the development of the show?
Well, we were really, I
don't think it affected the development because we had already finished shooting before that happened.
But the marketing of it, did Netflix get behind it more than they would? I'm just curious if it was
it was serendipity or whatever, and people are like, the timing is amazing. But we have to remember, we started working on this, and Karis and I had been producing sort of lifestyle content before, and it was just like these short pieces, and it was a lot of hustle. And at least for me, I was just like, I don't want to do this hustle like this anymore. For this for
me.
I don't want to do this.
You're way better at that than I am. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. And so I kind of had quit the film business altogether. And I was just like, I just want to put myself into something that I can really dig my teeth into.
Yeah.
That has and I don't care what it is. And then shortly after that, like my friend had, and it was also around the time of like the killing of Michael Brown. And I was just like, fuck. Oh, excuse me.
It's okay.
Like this is, I want something that means something. And then that's when the book showed up. And it was kind of this like behemoth, because we'd never done anything that long before. We'd done like little lifestyle pieces. We dropped the kids off from school and then like shoot and then like go pick them up, and this was just kind of like, oh my God. And when we approached Jessica Harris, the author of the book, and optioned the book, we were like, well, either she'll say no, and we've been spared ourselves, because we had nothing. Like we'll be
mild
spared,
relief.
like not have to do this.
In her
It's
hands.
a lot of work.
Exactly, it's in her hands. She'll be like, you guys, no, thank you. Or she'll say yes, and we'll be like, we do this. And she said yes, but I think we just kind of, working with Karis is like, we're both very like methodical and obsessive and super detail oriented, but in a way that's like, I think, and it comes, I think, also from our background. We both have sort of a grand world view of things. So it really made the development of the project, like we kind of looked at it from all different angles. And because, Karis has a film background, I have a film background, we were able to kind of like, she has a very history, literature. We were able to kind of like look at it like from this like sort of higher perspective of like what needed to be done and balance those things. So the development process was really great.
Yeah, and also we really wanted to make it modern. I think that's the big difference in the book, is that it's all historical, and with Jessica Harris, the author, is sort of is taking you through it, but we wanted to make it more modern by using Stephen and then him connecting with people that are in the food
present
world
day
right now.
Because that's the way to connect with the history. It's like, how does it affect me now?
Yeah.
Like, well, who cares what happened 400 years ago? Like, it doesn't affect me now, but like everything affects us now.
Yeah.
And
the food, a lot of the food from so long ago is still
around. And it's like, how did it get here?
Yeah.
I think one of our early pitch lines was like, it's the history of fried chicken and waffles, gumbo and grits, and how it got here.
Amazing. And in terms of where you guys take it next, take your collaboration, I'm sure all kinds of after doing something like this, it opens up all types of possibilities creatively. And what do you guys want
We're
to do?
open to all kinds of projects. But I think we're
staying a little
still
bit in
in
the
it.
food lane.
Yeah.
a little in the food lane. We are we're also super interested in women's stories, like hidden histories, giving voice to those who haven't had, part of culture and popular culture.
Yeah.
Whose stories are just kind of interesting. And
Yeah, you
like
were telling me about a book maybe you were reading that I also along the lines of the connections between slaves who had escaped or been freed and Native Americans and people. There was like a whole history of people that were essentially disenfranchised people.
Oh yeah,
who were,
that's something we're working on.
Oh, sorry, we won't talk about that then.
No.
Okay.
It's there's something we're working on right now, and it touches on that.
Okay.
But we hope it sells as well because Karis and I will be directing it.
Yeah.
Are you co-directing?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Is
exciting.
it going to be both doing everything or division of labor in some form?
No,
We're both doing everything.
but
That works out.
we like to refer to ourselves as like we don't have two. We share a brain.
Okay.
It's like it's one brain. We're half a brain,
Right.
and so it works really well because it'll be like
we
oh
are
my
also weirder together.
God. exactly.
Exactly.
Also, is there any? I'm just thinking for people who haven't seen it, like any
Well, they should
particular
watch it.
moments. But is there any, like, if you were to describe like a moment that's particularly moving from either of the seasons, just as a
Just get
bit of
into
an insight?
it.
Yeah, just watch it.
Yeah, just
Okay.
watch
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I would
It's
say.
good.
I mean, I think.
I think the emotional scenes are so moving, but
Yeah.
to describe them would not give them
No.
justice.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Season 1, I think, obviously you start with season 1 because the history is linear. So it's important. But I think I think the takeaway is that food is such an integral part of our lives. And no one really thinks about the history of who or why or how. And I think like it's all historic, and we are part of that history in some shape or form. Whether it's like, the carrying of some sort of like family legacy, that's like history. Like how your grandmother or your great grandmother made something and why they made it that way is part of who you are right now. And I think that that's a really important thing to honor. It's a way of sort of like, creating legacy even around our own lives. And through, High on the Hog, you see that. And it's something to celebrate. And
I know. And it's also a little bit, if you like food shows and travel shows also, like it's a little bit of like, you get that fun thing of traveling too a little bit in different places.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is interesting or something to talk about. I do love the idea of other chefs like reaching out and getting excited. I don't know why. I love when people I don't know.
Love it.
Isn't that so? What are some of the they would DM you or what happened? Like, just like I saw what you're doing. Like, what was an exciting story about someone reaching out or
Sauciest chef scoop DM?
I don't know.
What's Mario Batali DMing you guys?
But was it nice? Yeah, right. But it might be
I
nice
think it was
also.
just like all the kudos. Like people were really impressed
Yeah.
that we had told a story beautifully and historically that people were proud of.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think for a lot of, African Americans here, it's like there's something they felt seen, like the food. And it's not the Debbie Downer of the history.
I think also the thing that was amazing is people whose restaurants like popped off after.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
Jessica
true.
was one on the top 100 people of the year of Time Magazine.
I know. And like, hello, how cool is that?
That's
Amazing.
amazing.
So we were like, I mean, that was like, we were crying when we found that out.
yeah.
She told us like the day before it came out.
And we like the awards too.
yes.
We do. We got a Peabody Award, which was really
Amazing.
exciting, and an NAACP award as well.
Do you get two or do you
Yes.
get one? Okay. Do you have
Oh,
to
God.
pay for them? Because sometimes with awards you actually have to
yes.
buy them, right?
Yeah.
People don't know that.
I know.
Yeah.
Like I
The
have a
Star-
Cannes Gold Lion there. I had a song in a commercial that won an award, but I had to buy the thing. They were like $180. I was like, 100? It's The Cannes Film Festival. Can you not make an extra gold lion?
Well, we were gifted our Peabody, which
That's
was
nice, by
very
Netflix.
nice.
And NAACP was did
Yeah.
not have a dollar sign next to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's good. So it's all right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's nice. But I mean, it is so
It is a
funny.
good point. A little known fact.
Like the star. Right?
You won this. It's $500.
Yeah, it's like the Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame. People don't
wonder-
realize how much it all costs.
I wonder
Exactly.
how much that costs.
But I mean, it's funny because even with the Peabody, like Karis, like, oh my God, like there's so much money, like forget it. But there's something really nice about like having that to remind you of like, because there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and there were times where we were just like, oh my God, like, is this ever gonna happen? And to see like recognition of it, I'm getting teary. It's just like, it did change our lives.
Yeah, it's so funny too because when we were pitching, it was still in the days pre-COVID of like where you went in for all your meetings.
Yeah.
And that thing of like the nervousness of sitting in a room and like waiting for the people to come. Like now it's like every pitch thing we have is in a Zoom and you're in a shirt and your underwear underneath.
Yeah.
Like,
I
the
know.
level of intensity is like not
Definitely.
isn't as it's not as like dramatic. It's like I just remember sitting like waiting, you're like sweating.
Oh my gosh! And we'd have notes after the meeting. We orchestrated everything, like what side Karis was going to sit on next to it, and like, oh, she'd be like, "Don't wear that light blue shirt because now your sweat stains are down to your belly button, and it's like horrible." And yeah, for sure. But then you sell your first. I remember the first time that someone was like, "Oh, and what's your lawyer's number?" And we were like, "Huh?" Normally we get the. Thank you
I
so
think
much for coming.
it's legalzoom.com.
So, once you sell something, you're kind of like, well, I sold that. Okay.
Yeah.
We know how that feels. And
It's
we
like
look forward to that
a
again.
major calling card.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all those things like awards and stuff, they're people
It
will
helps.
respect you in the few when you bring in the next thing. It's like proof of concept. You guys.
Absolutely.
I think the ability to like get things done basically on time and on budget and not come out with enemies is
Oh, yeah.
you can keep going with that. It's really that's a
It's
huge
nice.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we really like working together and we like the people that we work with.
we
for
need
the
a
most
doll.
part.
We need to get a doll.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yeah, this cool guy from Chicago who was a copywriter. I don't even know what that is. Is that embarrassing? But he became he makes
Toy maker.
toy makers.
Yeah.
That is so
Should we
cute.
talk any personal stuff?
I don't know. I mean, I could just want to promote the show, I think is the goal. But if there's something you want to chat about. But I'm curious though, just in terms of your collaboration, because whenever we talk to like pairs of people who collaborate together, I'm just always interested in the dynamic. Do you guys do all creative projects together, or are there some things that would sit outside the realm of what you do as a unit?
There's you were working on something with someone else.
Yeah.
Not me. I only work with Fabienne.
I have a lot of nervous energy, so I am always looking to create something, or I'm available.
Yeah, you sound like
I'm the same.
Ben's
I
like
need
that.
to do. I find like if I'm working on too few things, I worry about them too much. And I always think it's healthier for me to have more horses in the race.
Yeah.
So I
I'm
obsess about
happier
leads.
when Fabi has lots of things going on because then she's not calling me every 20 minutes. What's
yeah,
happening?
and you love
Totally. She's like, you need a project.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Ben's like that.
Get to the project.
You and Goldie are project. Like Ben,
Yeah.
we went on a holiday once and he was super down, and I was like, "What's happening?" You're like, I don't love like a holiday. I want and even Christmas time. You were sort of like,
I
When
get
the
the same
industry
way.
slows down, I'm
Oh
sort of
my
like,
God,
what are you
I
guys all
start
doing? Let's
freaking
keep
out.
making things because we like it.
I know.
It's different if you have a job that's just a money
Karis
job.
is like,
I'm much more relaxed.
Karis is
I'm
like,
like, I could be fine. And also my husband's very similar to Fabi. So it's like a
Yeah.
lot of people around me are like, I'm like, you guys need to be really busy all the time.
Yeah.
Or you're making me crazy.
Yeah.
And it would be a nightmare if both people had the same energy.
Totally.
You'd burn the house down.
Totally. And that's the beauty.
I think it's true. sure you balance it out. I like someone like you. Like I dated a perfectly amazing person, but something was missing. I think they didn't have that. I kind of like when it makes me feel safe. Like someone's doing
I'm trying
something.
to think about who was she talking about?
Exactly.
I'll tell you.
There were many.
Yeah, who wasn't I talking about? No, but yeah, I'd like that. I mean, I need to be doing. I wouldn't want to do nothing for too long. Then I'd be depressed. But I can chill.
I think a lot of like growing up and maturing as a creative person is figuring out your particular creative language, the style that is going to work for you, and honoring that. And not, it's one of the areas I think you sort of have to surrender to. Like we each have our rhythms,
and with the kids also seeing like what is their thing going to be. Like I try to remember when I get alarmed, and I'm like, oh right, certain people can work. They figure out how they like to work. Like some people.
But we definitely have our rhythm, and God love, not to plug Google, but Google
But
saved
bless
our
Google.
lives.
Hey, check it out. Google.com. Shout outs to Google.
It's never. Okay. No, oh my
Google
God.
Docs.
But
No,
that was like
no.
a life changer when we realized that we could be writing at the same time.
Yes,
like
the Google Docs.
on Google Docs.
Because
Yes.
that's what we do.
Do you
all
have the
time.
side notes where you're like,
I don't like. Fabi likes the side notes, and I hate them. So we bicker about that always at the beginning. I'm like, I
And
don't
then
like
it's
the
like-
edit function.
So you just want to you just want to change it for good. You don't want to
Yeah.
make a comment on it.
Yeah,
I get it.
exactly.
Finality.
we're
fine with that.
mostly like on the phone together, writing together.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of how we work best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Oh my gosh. Remember that? We used to back in the day send documents
sending the
back.
documents
Wait
back
a
and
minute.
forth.
Is this what version of this is this document? And then it's like, I heard this thing called Google Docs.
yeah.
And then everything would be, all the writing would be in different colors, and we couldn't remember what the colors represented anymore. Like,
There was a key
Yeah,
on the
there's a
side.
key.
Here's the key.
Congrats on
Thank
both
you.
seasons. They're so beautiful, and
Thank you.
I know what you're saying about not over describing it, because it's almost like it's like food itself. It's like a flavor. You have to just like hit play.
Experience.
Yeah.
And just, I always, there's certain shows like Get Back, the Beatles thing was a bit like that. I was like, put it on for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, don't worry about watching the whole thing.
Right.
Just start it.
it's such
Yeah.
a good idea.
You know,
I'm
read
gonna
a
take-
page.
I'm gonna
It's
take
that kind of thing,
I'm going to take
you know?
that
It's like
advice.
Get Back.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
put it on.
Just put it on,
Yeah.
and you'll.
And
if
go
it's
on a
good,
journey.
it's like the first time I watched The Godfather. I was
Yeah.
like, I felt intimidated by it, and then I was just like, hey, if it's as good as everyone says, it's going to grab me.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
do think High on the Hog is like that. It's like you got to
Yeah,
just put
give
it
it a-
on,
give it a test.
and it will grab you. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful show.
Yeah.
Thank you
so
guys.
much.
Thanks for
Good.
having us.
Yeah.
Do you want to say goodbye to the beautiful babies? That's how we end every episode. That's our
Bye,
audience.
beautiful babies.
Bye, babies. We love you.